And you are watching slash listening to another edition of Blewetts Blitz, a solo edition of Blewetts Blitz. Coming off of hell of a week, good weekend, getting to watch some stress-free football on Sunday. Two Monday night games last night, which thankfully there was two games because the Bills-Jaguars game was an absolute blowout, but can look at that positively and both negatively. Obviously, the Jets want to win the division. Obviously, Jets want a home playoff game. So that part hurts because the Bills are 3-0, surging. Played some bad teams so far. The Cardinals, the Dolphins, who lost to while they were already blowing them out, and the Jaguars, who look like they're in complete shambles. So you will have to probably, you're gonna have to at least split with them, right? But let's handle business against them in Week 6, Monday Night Football. Hopefully, the Jets are going into that game a crisp 4-1. We'll see what happens with the Vikings in a few weeks. Obviously, Brian Flores is the talk of the town at DC there, making guys like CJ Stroud hesitate, hold the ball, take sacks. Is it a thing that or is it a defense that Aaron Rodgers can kind of dissect and hopefully the Jets' talent can take over, because I do think the Jets are a more talented team than the Vikings. But how do they handle travel? How do we handle travel? Bunch of questions with that game, but yeah, Jaguars lost, so they're most likely out of the wild card type race right now, which could be a Jets or could be a team the Jets are competing for if they are in the wild card race. Assuming they don't win the division in this instance, even though obviously we're hoping that they do. They're out of it in the Bengals too. Bengals lost last night, right? It was like 38-35 or whatever it was, high scoring game to the Commanders. So they're 0-3. You got the Ravens at 1-2. You got the Raiders, who were 1-1 after beating the Ravens, and then they lose the next week, get blown out by the Panthers. Just like wild outcomes this week. You have the Broncos blowing out the Bucks, who the first couple of weeks the Bucks were pretty good, get blown out by the Broncos, like I just said. So some good results for the Jets. Obviously, you have two out for the Dolphins for a little bit, and you'd assume they struggle. Again, we'll see what happens with them. I think the Bills have 3 pretty tough games coming up. I believe it's the Ravens, Texans, Jets in that order. I could be wrong about the order or even the teams, but let's see if they can carry some of their momentum into some of these harder games. Hopefully, obviously they do not. Josh Allen's on fire, but yeah, a lot of good this week. The game was obviously fun. It was nice to meet some of you guys. Tailgating with Ryan from Jets Talk, ran into Jake Asman. Tyson came by. Kevin came by as well. Met Sneakers to Boots and Jomo and Paul and some other people who came by the tailgate. So definitely a good time. So I appreciate everybody for coming and hanging out. Awesome game. Felt like from the start the Jets were in control of this. They didn't score that first drive touchdown like we all wanted. Unfortunately, there's a hold on Morgan Moses that was a little bit ticky tacky, but I get why they called it. That set them back a little bit, and then they had the punt. Obviously, they got the ball back pretty quickly from New England, and then they drove down the field and scored their first touchdown on the play that Aaron Rodgers has been doing quite a bit of hey, offensive line thinks this is a run play, but I have this corner, covering Allen Lazard, and he's 8 yards off. Let me get the ball to Lazard. We saw that there. We saw it again to Garrett Wilson later in the game where he almost got a touchdown, where offensive line thinks it's run. Hey, I'm gonna check real quick to my receiver and tell him, hey, run a bubble route here. Garrett Wilson gets the bubble route, gets 7-8 yards, sets up the Jets for a Breece Hall touchdown. So you saw that. You saw Rodgers moving a lot more in this game. Something that we wanted to see the first couple of weeks was like, hey, he looks pretty immobile, and you do have to defend, not defend it, but you have to say, hey, it's okay if he's immobile, because he could win from the pocket. He could win with his mind. He can win with his arm. But you add the element of him being able to move to his game as well. Like, watch out, because in this game and in general, right? Like he's more mobile than Prime Brady ever was. Prime Brady was never mobile. Prime Peyton Manning, he's more mobile than that. So, so he's already working from like a baseline where he doesn't have to be mobile. But again, you add it to his game, and you saw some of the scrambles. This game, he had a stun up the middle, rolled out to the left with a guy in his face, threw it to Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard made another 15-20 yards of yak. We saw the rollout to the right where he finds Conklin. We saw the rollout to the right where I believe he fitted into Jeremy Ruckert, who wasn't even looking at him when he threw the ball, and he just depended on Ruckert making the right move. Hell of a play by him there. A rollout to the left for a first down, a rollout to the right for a few yards. Like, he was on the move, 3 rush for 18 yards. Doesn't sound like anything crazy, but he did pick up some first downs with his legs. And again, multiple balls where he's rolling away from pressure and throwing the ball, and it adds another dimension to this offense. If we're talking about getting him on the move and nakeds and just play action fakes and things like that. So really encouraging to see Rodgers. Obviously 27 for 35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 rushes for 18 yards. He was 10 of 13 on third down. 11 yards per throw there. Converted on 8 of them. Jets were moving the ball. I think they're the best third down team in the league this year in terms of percentage. Last year we converted like 20%, 7%, something like that. And this year we're at like 56% completion or conversion rate on third down. Like, how times have changed from going from the worst third down team of last year to now the best. It was awesome. It was awesome to watch. And again, not that I'm celebrating a Super Bowl win in terms of like, hey, we should be so excited because people are going to say, oh, well, it's the Pats. They blew them out. Like, this is what they're supposed to do. I'm not celebrating like it's the Chiefs, but the Jets are supposed to beat who's on their schedule. Obviously week 1 was a little bit, fluky, I think, at this point. You have the Niners, who then went out and lost to the Rams, and they lost to the Vikings. So I think if the Jets played them again later on in the season, it'd be a little bit different of a game. But then you go to week 2, obviously a little bit tough game on the road against the Titans, but you bounce back in the second half, only allow 7 points on a miracle throw. The defense comes alive, the offense comes alive in the second half. And then going to this game, it's like, hey, you're looking at the offense, you're looking at the defense for the Pats. And I was saying it's like, beat this team like convincingly, because this team is not nearly as good as you. We could talk about the X's and O's and the run schemes and defense and all this shit, whatever. But at a certain point, like, it is the Jimmies and the Joes, and no, this team needs to dominate them, and they did. 24-3. It could have easily been 31-3. 38-3 if the Jets really put their foot on the necks of the Patriots, which we all kind of wanted, but I get not being overly aggressive and getting injured or something like that. Even though Rodgers was in the game relatively late, but still, a great game. A great game. I would say the crowd was probably, 80-85% of what it was last home opener, and I had a feeling it wasn't going to be the same. I was a little bit disappointed it wasn't sold out. The top rows had quite a bit of empty seats. I would say there's probably about, I don't know, it's hard to kind of say off the top of my head, probably like 5,000 empty seats in the stadium, which is always a little bit disappointing for a home opener. You want everybody to show up. Some people didn't. It is what it is. I'm thinking that if the Jets do go, they win 2 of the next 3 games to bring them to at least we have 3 more games, right? We got Broncos Vikings, and that's it, right? And then it's the Bills game. Yeah, if they win these next 2, and then they go to that Bills game 4-1, that stadium's gonna be rocking. Monday Night Football against the Bills, I think it'd be even better. So relatively good turnout, good tailgate, good game. Again, Rodgers dominating. Pass protection looked pretty good. Fashanu came in for, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20 reps, maybe something like 15, 16. He looked pretty good. He had like a bad rep and a half, but I'll still take it. He looked pretty good in the run game, pretty good in the pass games, passed off a stunt well. ABT got beat once or twice in the run game, but looked really good in pass protection. Joe Tippmann looked really good overall. Didn't notice him much, which is a good thing. John Simpson had a hell of a game as well, being like the enforcer of the offensive line, getting aggressive, getting in guys' faces. But he did a really good job in the run game. I put up a few plays of him on the review just individually and just highlighted how good he was in this game. And then Tyron Smith was really the only guy on the team who I could like say was a true dud. If you watch the film shows, I do 3 studs, 3 duds, and I'll always find 3 on either side of the ball. But for this game, like, the Jets offense dominated, the defense for the most part dominated. Like, I couldn't really find 3 duds. I did though, but the only guy who was truly like not good relative to their expectations was Tyron. Tyron allowed, a sack that Rodgers kind of walked into. He allowed a pressure or 2. He whiffed in the run game once or twice. So Tyron has been very, very good. I cannot say Tyron has been elite. He's still been a top 10 left tackle. I just don't think he's been 1, 2, or 3, like he was last year. But again, adjusting to a new team, adjusting to a new field, just a new environment. And even last year, like if you look at Tyron Smith's game against the Giants, he got beat up a little bit versus Thibodeau in the beginning of the season, and he bounces back and rounds into his elite form. Again, I think he's been very, very, very good, just not elite. Like he's given up some pressures. The first game he gave up a sack again, the few pressures that game. So he's given up, 2, 3 sacks at this point through 2 weeks and a decent amount of pressures. So it's not like he's been elite, at this point. But that's okay. I'll say hello to some people in the chat. Go through some of your questions and stuff. We'll talk obviously more about this game. I'll run through the rest of the roster and how they played and specific plays. I can pull them up as always. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming game against the Broncos. Look at the depth chart. Are we supposed to be scared of this team? Is a game, again, that you're supposed to win. The Jets are favored by 7.5, I believe, against the Broncos. So it's a game that you should handle. For sure. I know they looked, decent or they looked good against the Bucs, but a lot of short passes, a lot of quarterback runs, a lot of things I don't think are necessarily be replicatable, especially if the Jets play it like they did this game. And credit to the Jets coaching staff. I believe the number is they blitz 37% of the time, which is the highest number, I believe, of the solid error. So you're talking about a defense that adjusted. They stacked some more guys in the box. They blitzed a little bit more. And I expect that to be a wrinkle on this defense. Like, listen, hey, if we're looking at the defensive side of the ball for the Jets right now, we're going to say they're weak. We're going to say they're weak in their pass rush, right? So how do you negate that? Take your really good secondary that you've invested quite a bit into, and it's obviously hit. You're talking about a top 3 slot corner, a really, really good number 2 in DJ Reed, and a top 3 corner at minimum in Sauce Gardner. Let these guys press. Let them get a man coverage and earn their money. I'd rather the secondary get more pressure put on them than just drop 7 every time and say, hey, the defensive line has to step up. Clemens and McKinley and all these guys who are getting significant reps. Let's count on them to win. No, let's send Sherwood. Let's send Quincy. Let's make our corners earn their money here and press them. Get in their face and send some extra guys. And that's what they did in this game. And it worked to perfection. You have a bunch of young offensive linemen who couldn't pick up the blitzes and the stunts properly. And the Jets feasted 7 sacks. And I expected, again, the same thing against Knicks. I expect the same thing against Josh Allen. Realistically, like, hey, another guy who will run the ball, another guy who I'm not terrified of. I'm not terrified of Shaquille or Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. So press them, blitz Josh Allen. Don't give them running lanes. Make sure the DNs are nice and disciplined and pinching in the pocket and forcing Allen to step up and not out. Send those extra guys from middle, Quincy, Sherwood, whoever it may be, and get to them. So I think this is going to be a wrinkle that's not necessarily going to be the norm for the Jets in terms of blitzing at a high percentage, but it should be a thing that's in their bag now that they do against a lot of these teams. And if the pass rush can step up and prove that we don't need to blitz, then don't blitz. We'll see what happens the rest of the year with does Hassan Reddick come back? That's obviously a massive question at this point. I would still like to see him come back, even if we're going to talk about Will McDonald. I don't think it hurts to have Hassan Reddick, but maybe it's a thing where, and maybe this is legit. Like Clowney signed a 2-year, $20 million contract, whatever it was with the Panthers. At the point of the trade deadline where Hassan Reddick's not coming in, I'm completely okay with flipping a 5th round pick for Jadeveon Clowney, and then getting Adams, out of Raiders land over there. Some people brought up on Twitter, Amari Cooper. Like, let's say he's in his last year of his deal. Amari Cooper, I don't know what the dead money would implicate for them. I think the dead money would be quite high for the Browns, so I don't know if they would do it, but maybe Amari Cooper's a guy you look into. I don't know, but they need another DN at this point still. I'm not just going to say I'm cozy with, Michael Clemens as one of the starting DNs at this point still. Got a super chat from one Mr. Great Jets Shark. Thanks for all the good work. I'm sure it's not easy to do. Keep it up. It's thank you, Great Jets Shark. It's a lot easier than it was. I can tell you that. Reviewing good games, reviewing wins is a lot easier than reviewing blowouts upon blowouts upon blowouts upon blowouts in other seasons. But the to being a full-time dad during the day to go to work at night while trying to get all this stuff done can be a little bit taxing at times. But this week I had an extra couple of days. So the review is out there, by the way. Follow me on Twitter, JoeRB31. Less than 500 away, like 400 away from 10,000, chasing 10,000 on there for a little bit. And then on here, I think we're less than 60 away, or about 60 away from 10,000. So 60 more subs till 10,000. We deserve it on JetX, in my humble opinion. So subscribe, like, share, do all that stuff to get the word out to people. But I appreciate you, great Jet Shark. Eagle Thing says, hey, Joe, good win for the Jets, but things they need to work on, which is normal. Broncos is a must-win game. We can't overlook these guys, or we'll end up like the Bucs. Yeah, it's hard to say any game like in week 4 is a must-win, but at the same time, if you're trying to win the division, you have to win these games, right? If you want the Jets to just be a wild card team and sneak into the playoffs, because you have the Chargers who lost, the Ravens are 1-2, the Bengals are 0-3, the Jags are 0-3. Like, do I think you could sneak into the playoffs this year, potentially at 10-7? I do. But if you're trying to dictate to the rest of the NFL and get home playoff games, maybe you get a 1 seed or a 2 seed, 3 seed, because like, let's look at the AFC. The Ravens, who are a really good team, are 1-2. The Texans just got beat down badly, or they sorry, not beat down badly. They got beat by the Commanders. Not the Commanders. The Commanders just beat who? The Bengals. Sorry, the Texans got beat down by the Vikings. They got blown out versus the Vikings. That's my bad. So they're 2-1. Again, the Bengals are 0-3. They're supposed to be in that race. So like, the only teams who I think are like definitively better than the Jets right now at this very moment are the Chiefs, and they got gifted a win against Cincinnati last week. They don't look great, but okay, let's put them there just because, hey, they've won 2 championships. Give them credit. Fine. They're number 1 or 2, and the Bills are maybe 2. But that's about it. That's the only teams who I could say, like, right now, I think would deserve to be over the Jets in power rankings. But the Jets are 3. They're favored by a touchdown for a reason. Go and smack the Broncos around. I don't think it's going to be a game they were overlooking them anyway. One, because the Broncos won last week, so hopefully it wakes up the Jets a little bit. And we know that Rodgers, he has that motivation he finds, and he remembers what Sean Payton was saying about his boy Hackett last week, and I'm sure they're talking about it this week. So Rodgers is going to want to stick it to this Broncos defense, which looking it had a pretty good front against the Bucs, but still, I don't think there's much talent overall in the defense. I think that Rodgers should be able to tear them up a little bit. So but you got to win this game. You got to win this game at the minimum. And then we'll see. I think realistically, if you win this game, you try to take at least one of the next 2 after that against the Vikings and Bills. But there's a world where they win both. They could beat the Vikings. I think they have more talent than that team. Again, even though they're really well coached, O'Connell on offense and Flores on defense. But that's a game you could win. And then again, we've beaten the Bills like 3 years in a row at home, or whatever it's been. So they should win that game. They'll be favored in it. But at least this next one, and then at the minimum, split the next 2. So 2 out of the next 3, at the minimum. And then the Jets are, we're talking about 2 out of the next 3. We're talking about the Jets being 4-2. 4-2 going into Pittsburgh. Is that the next game? Week 7? Something like that. But yeah. Again, get in their face. I'm not terrified of Sutton, and is KJ Hamler their number 2 at this point? Tim Patrick, is he even healthy? I don't know, but these are guys I think Reed, Carter, and Sauce should be able to take. Eagle Thing says, I wish Moses a good recovery, but at this point, I want Olu out there on the field, even if he comes back. I think Olu is ready for game snap experiences. It depends. I would say if Olu looks just as good as Morgan Moses, then I understand like rolling with Olu and having a really good backup tackle in Morgan Moses. And I think Morgan Moses is a team guy where he would be okay with that, and he probably would shift over to left tackle. Let's say, well, honestly, the only thing I don't love about that is if, okay, then you let's say Tyron Smith gets injured in one of these games. Do you then move Morgan Moses from right tackle to left tackle where he's never played? Or then do you take your rookie who has been moving left to right tackle, now he's playing right tackle, and you move him over to left tackle to take over for Tyron Smith so Morgan Moses can come into the game at right tackle? That's the only question I have about that. But yeah, I can see the Jets wanting to play Fashanu if he's the same level as Morgan Moses. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably not going to happen. Morgan Moses is a solid right tackle. I think you might have more, hiccups with a guy like Fashanu, but we'll see. Morgan Moses got his knee rolled up on. Tyron Smith actually lost his block right there. And the quarterback, so he had 2 sacks then. Rodgers kind of stepped into one, and then he allowed another one. Rolls up into Morgan Moses's right knee, sprained his MCL. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. So you're going to have Fashanu against the Broncos, the Vikings, the Bills. And then I remind me if I'm wrong, guys. I think the week after the Bills game, it's the Steelers game. Is it Steelers Sunday Night Football after the Bills? I think so. But there's some games that are now looking harder for the Jets. Vikings are looking harder for the Jets now. Cardinals are looking harder for the Jets now. But games like the Jaguars, I thought they were going to be competing for a wild card spot this year. They're looking much easier. I could say the Colts. Anthony Richardson looks like just absolute trash at times. So I think Cardinals got, again, teams like the Cardinals got harder. Maybe even the Steelers, Bills. But again, the other games I mentioned are looking a little bit easier, but we'll see. We have a lot of times for teams to kind of round out into form. You usually kind of know what the NFL or like what the landscape is pretty solidly by week 4 or 5, I would say. First couple of weeks are just so unpredictable. The first 4 or 5 weeks. Eagle Plank says he won't be much on it. He's prepping for a hurricane, but let's go Jets. You know what I actually need to do? Because I tried to do it last week and I wasn't able to. Okay. Let's see if I could get back into the game here and start the membership gifting, if that's a possibility. But for some reason my computer does not like to load. It does not like me gifting memberships to my own the own channel. But yeah, it's not gonna load for right now. All right. I'll get back to that later, and hopefully it works. But Eagle, I hope you're safe with whatever hurricane is coming to. You're in the Florida area, right? So hopefully it's not too bad. Marvin says, when was the last time the Jets had a win like this past Thursday? Since last year, I guess it was kind of a blowout. But if you're talking about like the good vibes of it, I don't even know. I really don't even know. Like a good vibes blowout. I can't think of the last team we really blew out past this, again, the Texans game last year. But in terms of like good vibes, where you actually had a hope for the season, I don't know, man. I really don't know, Marvin. Like 2015, obviously, you have the feel good game against the Pats in overtime. I was at that game for the overtime touchdown. Like, hey, we kind of had beer muscles before the game. It's like, hey, if they win this game, we didn't expect them to. We were going to Buffalo next week. They won the game. We walked outside. We ordered our tickets. Then we started planning for Buffalo, and we knew what happened there. So, yeah, I don't really know, Marvin. Like legit, I'm not sure. I have no idea. Bills are a regular season flex team. AFC Cowboys. Miami is the 76ers of football. All right. Yeah, no championships for the Sixers. Kind of always a good regular season team. Even with AI, they were a team. Him and Iggy. Like they were a team. They were a good team, but they never won it all. Right. They never won it all with AI, right? I don't think so. But yeah, hey, we'll see. We'll see the Bills in a few weeks. Again, we've been kind of handling them with Zach Wilson at quarterback. I think we've beaten them the last 3 years at home. This should be a game that the Jets win realistically, right? Home divisional game, Monday Night Football. Come out there and play better than them. At the end of the day, I don't think their receivers are anything to write home about. Their defense lost some key pieces, even though they're old. I don't think this is a Bills roster that's absolutely stacked. Like I don't think the Bills are gonna stay blowing people out the entire season. So we'll see. We'll see what they do in the next 3 weeks. Again, Ravens, Texans, Jets. We'll see how they respond. We are in fact watching the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals become the 2020 Houston Texans. I don't know about that. The Texans without Watson were terrible. You're talking about an absolute train wreck of a roster. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are more. They're better than that, but I also think with the same time, I think people tend to overrate quarterbacks pretty quickly. And Joe Burrow is good. He's not Patrick Mahomes level. He's not even close to Josh Allen right now. Burrow has struggled, even though realistically in that game, right, they allowed 38 points to the Commanders. So how much do you want the Bengals to do? I didn't see the last probably quarter of that game, but I know when I was going to sleep with about a quarter left, the the Bengals and the Bengals nor the Bengals or the Commanders punted at that point. So I'm not sure how much you could blame him on Joe Burrow if they're never punting the ball. I'm not sure if I don't think he had a turnover, right? Or did he? Which, by the way, Trevor Lawrence, dude, woof. He looks bad. And he's got a big contract too, I believe, but like throwing balls over guys' head over the middle, not processing quickly. You can see he's getting frustrated. He does not look good right now. And they just gave him a big contract. He looks mid at best. Dakota says the Jets are the first team in NFL history to have 400 plus yards of offense, 40 minutes time of possession, 0 turnovers, 0 touchdowns allowed, 7+ sacks. Yeah, I thought I saw that on on Twitter, like some stats and info type deal where you just put in their numbers, plug it in, and it tells you, they're the first team since then to do that. But yeah, hell of a game. You're talking about a little bit more than 40 minutes of possession time, which I believe is the same number that the Niners held us to, right? The Niners game, we only had the ball for like 21 minutes or 20 minutes. So kind of the reverse. We did what the Niners did to us to the Patriots. Even though ours was much more so passing than running. Even though running the ball, like, look, you had Breece Hall, who didn't have like a ton of yards, 16 rushes for 54 yards. 47 of those 54 yards were after contact. And then you have Allen, 11 rushes for 55 yards. 41 of those 55 yards were after contact. He looked really good. Allen has been awesome. He's been running with a lot more decisiveness. We saw the one play where I believe it was Rucker completely whiffed the block on the first level. He meets Braylon Allen in the backfield. It looks like it's going to be a loss of 4. Braylon Allen puts his shoulder down, trucks the dude, and then picks up a yard. So he turns a -4 yard loss into a 1 yard gain. So I'm trucking guys deep down the field, on some plays or the second level of the defense in this game. He looked good. Braylon Allen's looked really, really good. There was a one play where he got tripped up by, I think it was Ruckert's or Conklin's legs, and it might have been a touchdown. It might have been like a 35-yard touchdown if he didn't trip there. So the running backfield has been awesome. Give credit to both of those guys. I still think Breece is going to have like his breakout game. Lazard has had a resurgence this year. The yak play where he picks up like 20, 25 yards, the yak play where Rodgers changed it at the line. He breaks a tackle, gets into the end zone. So he's been much better than most of us expected. And he looks like he did when he was playing in Green Bay, which in my opinion is a decent number 3. And that's what he is now. And watch out, because if the Jets continue to, it seems like they have a lot of diversity in their lineups. Like, think about it. You look at the Jets this week. I think they ran like 30 plus plays with 2 tight ends on the field. So you have the capability to run 2 tight ends, because Rucker is, he's a volatile blocker, but he's playable. So you have that ability to play 12 personnel, which they played plenty of this game. You have the option to play 21 because, hey, clearly we like both of the running backs and we're running these pony sets. So we've been looking good in 12. You've been looking good in 21. And then obviously if you go with 4 receivers, at this point, or even just 3, like they have some depth there. They have their 3 starters and Lazard, Mike Williams, who continues to impress. The one play deep down the field where Morgan Moses got the hold. It looks like Mike Williams got held. And there's another play he couldn't bring it in the end zone, where the Jones, number 31, did a really good job of getting his hand in there and breaking the ball out. So nearly a great catch, but a better defensive play by the defender. He had the one catch on first down, second down, whatever it was, back shoulder on the sideline where Rodgers actually put it too far inside. But Mike Williams is able to snatch it. So you have 3 good receivers, 3 solid receivers. And if they add Devontae to this team, which I think the Jets are like plus 300 at this point, and the next team's like minus 300. So it seems like all betting favorites are saying, hey, the Jets are most likely going to get this guy. And if you add him to this offense, and you have Devontae, Garrett Wilson, Lazard, Conklin, even, who had 5 catches, 6 catches for 95 yards, and then the killer bees, this offense is cooking, man. You're talking about this team who's not even up to their standard yet. They're unequivocally, or they're undoubtedly going to get better as blockers on the offensive line together, both pass and run. Breece is going to get his legs under him. And then we saw it with Garrett. Like, Garrett's been a little bit off this season. And obviously he was drawing a lot of double teams, brackets, cones, whatever it may be in this game. With that being said, can I also acknowledge, while Garrett Wilson is drawing attention and having safeties rotate over to him and stuff, can we also acknowledge that Garrett Wilson has been very good but not great this season? I think that's okay to say. The first game he had a toe tap that he didn't get in bounds. He had the illegal touching because he ran out of bounds, ran back in bounds, and then caught the ball. Got a penalty for that. He's had a drop or two. This game, he had the toe tap opportunity, which if you look back at the replay, which I could pull up, he clearly had an opportunity to get his feet in bounds. He had the one play where he was off with Rodgers on the fade route, where Rodgers was running to peel off of the fade at the first down marker. Garrett kept running, which is a connection thing. And there's also the play where Garrett Wilson runs up the seam, which I actually probably agree with Garrett Wilson here. I thought Garrett Wilson should have kept running. I think Rodgers saw a safety coming over the top and wanted Garrett Wilson to sit it down a little bit, and he didn't. And then the ball was behind Garrett. Garrett has to die for it. So once you see that connection come through, this offense is only going to get better. You have the one play as well, which I put up on Twitter. Mike Williams is isolated. It's a 3-by-1 set. Rodgers reads Mike Williams isolated on a slant. Mike Williams wins the slant. So he throws in the ball, converts on third down. Awesome play. But if Mike Williams was guarded there, guarded better, and Rodgers had to get to the left side of the field, Garrett Wilson cooked Gonzalez on a rocker step corner that Rodgers would have hit Garrett Wilson for 30, 40 yards there, but Mike Williams was open, so he hit him. So that connection's going to get better between Garrett and Rodgers, because Garrett's such an unorthodox route runner. It is a little bit hard to predict what he's going to do. And then again, I think it's fair to say that Garrett's been very good, but we're talking about Garrett like he's a top 5 guy. I think he's been top 10, 15, but I don't think he's reached my ceiling for him this year. Like, I don't think he's been near the top 5, and I think he's fighting to stay in the top 10. It's not just based on stats, but again, 2 sideline catch opportunities out of bounds, a drop or 2 here and there. He had the one really nice catch, obviously, for the touchdown that Rodgers couldn't have walked the ball into a better spot. Rodgers comes off, they run an out and a slant or whatever it was on the outside, but Garrett Wilson runs an out. And initially he gets kind of like jammed. Rodgers, cardinal sin of pulling the ball back, double clutches, then fades back, and he fades back to give his ball a more advantageous launch angle, because if he threw it from where he was, the ball would be too flat and would give Gonzalez a better angle to pick off the ball or tap it or deflect it. So he fades back and throws it at a more advantageous arm angle. And fits the ball in there by literally this much. Just a ridiculous throw by Rodgers. So good catch by Garrett there. But once Garrett really gets going, because again, I'm not. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? He's great. He's great, but he could be better, right? Catch the ball in bounds. Don't run out of bounds and catch balls. Don't get more on time with Rodgers, which is both him and Rodgers thing. And he's had a drop or 2. So it's been great, but not elite, right? We're expecting elite. Again, everybody has different standards. And I expect Garrett to be a top 5 receiver. And I don't think he's been playing like a top 5 receiver at this point. With that being said, he's been great, right? Like, that's okay to say. Am I going to get people tying nooses in the chat? I don't know. I'll scroll down in a little bit and see if I'm going to have to lock my doors, but we'll see. Okay. The Jets are only the 3rd team in the last 80 years to play 3 games of the season within a 11-day span. Wasn't it a 10-day span though? You have Monday to Sun. Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I guess it is 11 days. Everybody was saying 3 games within 10 days. It's really 11, huh? Lamar Jackson is 21-1 versus the NFC. That's wild. Josh Allen is only 7-4 versus the Jets in his career. And a lot of those wins were early too, right? Not in the last couple of years. A lot of those wins were, Adam Gase-led Jets teams where they still barely won. Let's see. Didn't put a lot of stats in here to go to. Yeah, he's prone. He's prone to turning the ball over. Joe, what are your thoughts on Kinlaw so far? I think he's been good. I think he's been good. If you're looking at the sack last week, it was on a stunt, so it was more by design than Kinlaw. But he's been disruptive in the run game. He drew the hold last week against a Titans player because he rocked him. He had a sack this week. The run game, he's a little bit volatile, still getting moved a decent amount, and then we'll make a play. So I think he's been okay. I know the stats will say 2 sacks. I think it's 2 sacks, or maybe it's only 1. But I think he's been okay. I would say a little bit above expectation. Not below expectation, but not great either, right? Like, is that okay? He's been okay, which is slightly above my expectation for him. Bengals 0-3. Curly Norman, what is up? Miracle catching you. What's up, Kev? Again, random times. It's always random times. I was ashamed at how many Jets fans were leaving the stadium early. We've been waiting. Yeah, that too, right? Curly, like you and again, I'm not trying to compare us to other fan bases, but if you watched the Bills game last night, like they were blowing out the Jags, and Bills fans were still like really loud on third down when it was like 35-3 or whatever that game was. Fans did leave quite early, and again, I was a tiny bit disappointed with the start of the game in terms of or just in general, the emptiness. Like if you look at some of the replays of the game and if you look towards the top rows, the stadium was, I would say, at least 5,000 short of full, right? So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with the turnout from Jets fans. I'm not gonna lie. I think there's a fan base that can hype themselves up in terms of like the best, and then I get that people don't show up or haven't showed up the last couple of years because of how tortured we are. But you'd think for the home opener with Aaron Rodgers, we'd be sold out, but it wasn't. There's a good 5,000 people short. A little bit disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. Swolsey says it looks like our biggest threat to the AFC is in our division, but I do think they're playing better than what they really are. Can't wait to see it. Yeah, the Dolphins barely squeaked one out against the Jaguars. The Jaguars haven't looked good, so they beat 2 bad teams in those 2, and then they nearly lost to the Cardinals. That miracle comeback against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals beat the Niners, but they also lost this week to who did they lose? Who did the Cardinals lose this week to? Because it was a team that I think they were maybe expecting to put up a fight against, and they lost. The Cardinals lost to the Yep. I don't know why my computer's been absurdly slow. I can't even Google who they lost to, but they lost. Pretty sure they lost yesterday. So weird having a big league like wearing a tight shirt, being chubby, just like feeling uncomfortable. All right, I like that. What do you think of Salah's clock timeout management? Yeah, they got it. They have to figure it. So I'll be completely transparent with you, Kev. I'm watching the game however many beers deep in the stadium, so I don't get like a good feel for it when I'm there because I'm just enjoying it as a fan. And then you go back and watch on broadcast, or you go back and watch on film, and you can kind of take like liberties and not paying attention to the clock and timeouts and all that stuff. So I do think you get a better feel for that stuff when you're home watching the game. So maybe I'm not as informed as I should be. But I know there was a timeout or 2 that was wasted because of the play clock thing again, right? So that's got to get figured out, obviously. Could be a little bit of a blessing and a curse. Like, listen, if Rodgers is going to carve up defenses because he's taking it to the last second to evaluate what they're doing, and we have to settle with a delay of game or 2 a game, okay, obviously we'll bite that bullet, but we still don't want it to happen, right? So they got to get that figured out. I don't think it was as bad this week as it was the prior 2, at least to my knowledge. So let me know if you're talking about something different though, because I saw some of the problems with them having called timeouts because the play clock was going down. But other than that, we're talking about like before half. Was there any flubs before half with time management? I don't know. What is up, Ray? Throws up some Jets symbols in there. Any thoughts on the Jalen Mills signing? The only thing I saw from this, Curly, was the fact that he's one of the better tacklers in the NFL. And I do think the Jets, they have the depth is questionable at safety, right? Like Isaiah Oliver is a relatively unproven player. Like he hasn't proven a lot through his career, especially at safety, because he got moved from slot corner to safety. And then Ashton Davis is a guy who I've been saying for a little while I think is overrated by Jets fans. He had 3 picks last year. And if you look at all 3 of the picks, they were kind of hand wrapped to him. He played in week 1 and got lit up a little bit. So I think bringing in a vet safety who could tackle well is not a bad thing. Now, where does he fit into the roster? I don't know. But he's played safety before. He's played slot corner before. So I think he's a depth chess piece, because if you're going to have some weeks or some games where Michael Carter II isn't healthy, and you want to throw Jalen Mills into there to be a good a good tackling slot corner / box safety, then I get it. Not so many thoughts because I haven't necessarily watched him so much in the last couple of years, but I know he started his career off with the Eagles, and then went to the Pats the last few years, and he's always been okay with the Pats. I don't think he's been terrible. I don't think he's been great, but I think adding a versatile safety / nickel corner is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. What is up, Sluggo? Things are good in Jetland. Yeah. This weekend was nice, relaxing, watching the games. I'll be back out there Sunday to hopefully watch a similar game. The Jets should beat the Broncos relatively comfortably, and then it's all about getting a little bit nervous for the Jets going over to London. And again, well-coached team, but I think the Jets have more talent than that team. So I think the main reason they're doing, and it's the offense as well, but I think the defense is a huge catalyst to it. And if you look at the roster, it has to be more so by scheme, unless there's guys who are really just stepping up. But I think if you take a smart quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and put him versus a smart DC, hopefully they can cancel each other out, and then it's a thing where the talent takes over and the Jets can win that game. I don't think the Vikings are going undefeated for the rest of the year. So they are 3-0, right? So what's their next game? My computer's not going to work because there it is. Packers. So they got Packers in Green Bay. It's a game that you'd think with Malik Willis they'd probably win. So they come into the Jets game at 4-0, a little bit overconfident, potentially. So hopefully it's a game that they can take, And then if you're going into that Bills game at 4-1, Monday Night Football, if there is one empty seat in that stadium, I will be extremely disappointed in fans, because I don't think there should have been an empty seat last. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, I'm screwing around with screens here. I'm still trying to do gifting on my side, and I'm still not able to, which is brutal. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Green Bay for them, so they might come into it 4-0. The Jets are going to have to knock them down a peg. Home field advantage, super important for A-Rod in playoffs. Yeah, you look at some of the stats people put out on Twitter of him at home. He was undefeated on Monday Night Football, and then he lost. So he can't take 2 L's in a row there. But you're talking about all the stats out there of Rodgers when he has really good defensive performances. He's almost 90-10, I believe, when it's under 20 points. You have his home splits versus his away splits. His home splits, I think he's in the 800 winning percentage range, while on the road is 560 winning percentage or something like that. But you're talking about Rodgers winning at home almost 80% of the time versus about 56% on the road. And I think it's a little bit higher than 80%, maybe 81, 82. So yeah, it's important. It's important for a quarterback who likes to check a lot of things at the line, have a lot of communication. And then obviously it makes it harder for the offenses. It's undoubtedly a factor. There is a such thing as home field advantage. So yeah, that's why we were rooting for the Bills to lose last night, right? But unfortunately they didn't, because the Jaguars apparently suck. Each week our O-line will develop more chemistry. Yeah, they've been looking better and better. I think Tyron will only get better too. Again, he's been struggling a little bit to start the season, struggling to his standard, or up relative to his standard, but he'll get better as well. Simpson looked really good. Tippmann looked really good. ABT has been better. He had a really nice combo block to the second level. He was turning guys out well, so I think ABT had his best game so far. And then now you see Fashanu at right tackle, and there's a reason. Again, we drafted this guy, and people were saying Jets made the right decision in drafting him. Would have been idiots to draft the receiver or anything like that. Can we get it? Can we get the facts straight here that the Jets did want to trade up for Odunze? They got denied, and they tried to trade up for Neighbors, and that didn't happen. Which, by the way, I guess we can do a short victory lap on that one, even though everybody should have known Neighbors was good. But for the people who watch this stream, at least since then, I was my number one option was trade up for Neighbors camp, and Neighbors has been going absolutely off. That was my number one plan. Trade up for Neighbors and then figure out tackle, backup tackle later, which is a little bit risky. But imagine if you had Neighbors on this team right now. Neighbors, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Lazard. Now we're talking. But hey, you drafted him. You're gonna get Devontae in about 4 or 5 weeks, so it's okay. Beloved Piece, his thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. I would rather have a QB be terrible than mediocre to average. The Jags are going to be in limbo for the next few years. Yeah, and the thing is too, like you think that Doug Peterson is probably going to get fired after this year, right? Like they've had plenty of years to rebuild it. They just gave their quarterback a huge contract. He's looking like shit right now. So he's probably going to get fired after this year, and then new regime comes in with Lawrence, who like you, I kind of think he's more mid. I think he's just like an average level quarterback. And they're going to be a team who's like consistently, they're going to be in hell because they have his contract on the books now. But like, what are you going to do for the next 3 years? Win 7, 8, 9 games, 6, 7, 8 games, 6, 8, something like that, 6 to 10. Not make the playoffs. If you do make the playoffs, scrape in, lose in the wild card. So they're going to be in limbo for a little bit. I think their head coach is going to get fired after this year, if not sometime during the season. What's up to Rich? How you doing? Rodgers and Hackett getting ready for Denver. Got to remember they have 2 stud running backs. Yeah, but how good has Javonte been though? Because I know I saw that move by McLaughlin or whatever his name is on that D end from the Bucks. He completely just juked him out of his shoes. But how good has Javonte Williams been since he's come back from injury? Because he had like a massive knee injury, right? Javonte Williams stats. Has he been doing anything this year? I don't know. He's 24 carries for 52 yards, 2.2 yards a carry. Last year he had 217 carries for 774 yards for 3.6 yard average. I'm not so sure if he's a stud. Now maybe it's a thing where like the offensive line is bad and he's good, but based on his numbers, he hasn't been running well. Actually, and I'll pull up the Broncos depth chart for later. Go over the roster a little bit if I need to cover some time here. Let's see. Okay, pull them up. All right. Dakota says 1 Chiefs, 2 Bills, 3 Steelers, 4 Jet. But the thing with the Steelers is like they barely beat the Broncos, they barely beat the Falcons, right? And a lot of those games were like defensive, like slugfest. Like I don't think the Steelers are necessarily a better team than the Jets right now. I know they're 3-0, so it might look like that. And I know Fields had a good game last game. I forget who they played on Sunday. But I don't think the Steelers are a lot better than the Jets right now. Like I get putting them 3 above the Jets because they're 3-0, but I'm not so sure I'm scared of the Steelers yet. I'm scared of the defense, and I know Fields has been playing better, but going to that game, I think that's a game the Jets are favored in, even on the road. So Steelers at 3, due to Mike Tomlin being 3-0 like expected. Yeah, it's fine. It's going to be a little bit harder than we predicted when the season came out. You're talking about the schedule? Yeah. Again, Cardinals is harder. Cardinals is harder than we expected. Vikings is harder than we expected. But again, I'd argue that the Rams game is going to be easier than we expected based on injuries. The Dolphins game may be easier than we expected. Seahawks might be easier than expected. So there's always give and take. There's always give and take. Thank you for the super chat hype. $5 super chat. He says, I kept saying trade Reddick and Ashton for Buda Baker in a third, then sign Yannick for $3 million. Your thoughts? Adams may come if the Raiders keep losing. Yeah, and you're hoping with some of the videos like coming out of that game, like he's sitting on the bench and looking all pissed off, and Pierce is saying that the guys are making business decisions. Is he referring to Adams or not? I don't know. I hope they keep losing. We did think they'd be 1-2. Right. I thought they were going to lose to maybe or beat like the Chargers, or maybe even the Panthers, not beat the Ravens in their first 3 games, but we still got the 1-2. So they should I think they'll be looking to move him by the deadline still. For Buda Baker, Reddick, if you tell me right now, hey, Reddick for Buda Baker, fine. I'll take it. But then past that, I wouldn't want Yannick for $3 million because Yannick hasn't really done anything in the last 2 or 3 years. I'd rather get Clowney. Give me Clowney over Yannick. I think that's a guy who's going to be a realistic get for the Jets at the trade deadline because the Panthers are going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 wins by that point. So I would trade for Clowney. I'm trying to see if okay, my dog's squeaking the ball upstairs is something you guys cannot hear. That's coming over the mic. All right, perfect. I appreciate the super chat, the hype. I would do that, sure, but I don't think Yannick's enough at the end at that point. And then you're not getting a receiver. So you're getting a safety and a D end instead of a receiver. I would probably rather get just a D end and the receiver. I think they're okay at safety. Clark had a little bit of the bounce back game. He had the sack, which was again more by design. He had the strip. He didn't look terrible in coverage. Again, I don't think he's ever going to be great in coverage because of his lack of mobility. And then Tony Adams looked fine. He had the one play where he got trucked over by Stevenson. He filled the hole. I believe it was duo. Stevenson cuts in the B gap. Tony Adams fills the hole and gets absolutely trucked. But that was the play that Stevenson face masked Chaz Surratt. So it was a penalty on them. But Tony Adams, he's got to be a little bit better at tackling. His angles have been a little bit bad. And then in that instance, you can't stop your feet for Ramondre Stevenson. You got to keep your feet moving. If you bend from the waist and just try to, bring him down on contact instead of driving your feet, good luck. And Tony Adams felt the pain of that. So I think their safeties have been fine enough where I'd rather just go Clowney and Adams. And I know the receiver core has been better than their safeties. But with that being said, you add Adams to this team, and Adams, just like the five threats that you have on the field, like being at the minimum, you always want Adams, Garrett Wilson, Conklin, Brees, right? Or you're always gonna have those guys, which is an amazing foursome of threats. And then the other guys rotate between, Allen Lazard, Ruckert, or Braylon Allen. Hopefully more times than not, it's Braylon Allen, and then second to that, it's Lazard, because Lazard has that connection with Rodgers. But that's ridiculous if they're able to do that. We got to see what happens with Reddick. He's been fined about $9 million at this point. I think the Jets can get rid of like 2 or 3 of those million, but I think like 6 million are like they have to be done. And you're talking about him making 15, 14. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think he might sit out the entire season. And at that point, I trade for Clowney. You take that money you're saving every week and you trade for Clowney. That's what I would do. And it's good because Clowney's on a 2-year contract. You don't know what's going to happen with JJ next year, first year after an Achilles tear. So you have Clowney on the team for the next 2 years. I think that's a good deal. Almost hoping for it at this point. You get a guy who's motivated to play here, good run defender, get Clowney for less money than Reddick this year, and then that gives you some flexibility to get Devontae Adams. Like, give me Devontae and Clowney all day. I'll do it. Thank you for the super chat though, hype. Another one from No Skills. Timeout stuff needs to be fixed. On the other hand, how much do you think the hard counts help the O-line shine by keeping opposing D-lines honest? Yeah, the hard counts do. But with that being said, at the same time, No Skills, if you're taking it up to 0 seconds every time, that's a countdown clock for the DNs to go. Because if you're not going at 0, it's a flag. So a lot of guys are just going to explode at 0. So you're kind of giving, you're helping the offense with the hard counts, but you're also hurting them based on the fact that you're bringing it down to 0. And again, the defensive ends and defensive linemen literally have a countdown to when they can go. So it hurts and helps them. It's kind of, there's multiple different like dimensions of that. So both hurts and helps. Good question. I think you mix up a little bit and start snapping the ball at 5, 6, 7 seconds sometimes, and throwing some hard counts, at 5, 6 seconds on one play, and then they're gonna be like, no, he always brings up to 0, and then you snap it at 4, and they're like, oh shit, I didn't expect them to snap it, so they got to start snapping it early because you are giving them, the green light to go at 0, and I don't love that. So keep going through the comments, which you guys are lighting up, which I appreciate, especially on solo shows. I don't know if next week or the week after I'm going to do a call-ins, but one of these next couple of weeks I'm going to do call-ins too and see how you guys respond to that, which I know I don't do it consistently, so people aren't like expecting to call in. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it is what it is. Beloved P says Anthony Richardson can't hit the broadside of a barn right now. Dude has a lot of potential. Yeah, no, again, that was a game I thought the Jets could lose that one, but their run defense looks like garbage. Anthony Richardson looks terrible. So again, that's easier. The Rams are maybe easier, but Cardinals definitely harder. That's gonna be a hard one on the road, but we'll see what happens. Houston game. Houston hasn't looked like, I'm gonna say, I haven't watched them individually, but I'm gonna say CJ Stroud hasn't been the top 5 quarterback that everybody expected coming right out the gate. Like, he's been struggling a little bit more than some people think. He would have, or think that he would have. And the Jets had his number last year, so I think the Jets can win that. They could win every single game on the schedule, really. And if the offense is going to play like they are, I think DVOA, they're a top 10 offense, and I think their DVOA on defense, they're right near the top 10 or about at it. the defense is only going to get better and the offense is going to get better. You're talking about a team who, based on the way they've, and again, week 2 was bad, but like based on DVOA right now, you're talking about a top 10 offense, top 10 defense for the Jets. And they're only going to get better. Like this team, there's reasons people were saying, hey, 12, 13 wins to this team. It's very possible. Very possible. The Vikings game is huge. The Bills game is huge. Steelers game, but they can beat Houston. To be fair, you probably have to put the Vikings ahead of the Jets in terms of like power rankings. I was talking about the AFC, but yeah, right now I would say I would put them ahead of them for like power ranks. It's for how good you look right now. But if I was to break down the rosters one for one, Jets versus the Niner or the Vikings, I'm going to say the Jets have more talent than the Vikings, even though the Vikings at this very time are playing better. But I completely understand what you're saying. Power ranks, yeah, the Vikings are ahead of the Jets. But one for one, I'm going to give the Jets roster the advantage, but it comes down to coaching too. And I'm going to take O'Connell over Hackett. And I'm going to, Flores, Salah, it's a conversation, but yeah, that's going to be a really good game. Wake up. What is that? That's not this Sunday. It's next Sunday. Wake up 9:30. Wake up at like 8:30, cup of coffee, feed the kid a little bit, hand him off to the wife, and then scream my TV nice and early in the morning. So I see somebody, I think somebody asked me that later on in the chat. Am I going to London? I'm not. I just couldn't pull it off this year. One of them, when I do go to London, I'm making a little bit of a longer trip, and I don't want to leave my wife with a 9-month-old baby, 8-month-old baby, for 3, 4, 5 days alone. I just feels kind of shitty. And just crazy expenses this year, buying, the truck and getting a French drain in the backyard and a generator and air conditioning and all this shit in the house. It's just, I'm not gonna be able to pull it off. So, I'm still figuring out exactly what I'm going to do, but it's going to be Patriots or Miami. I'm not sure. Patriots closer, cheaper, less days I got to be away. Miami, more expensive, got to be away for more days, but more fun. Much, much more fun. So we'll see. I'm leaning towards Miami, but I got to have a conversation again with the wifey. Which you have to do. Maybe I'm a little bit whipped, but I feel bad. It's just, hey, I'm going to go to Miami for 3-4 days. You okay with taking care of a 4-year-old or a 8-month-old for 4 days by yourself? You're fine like that, right? Like it's RTW. RTW says, what's up? Actually catching you live, Joe. Good stuff. I appreciate you, RTW. At least I move around the times a lot, so I can see a lot of different people. There's some people who I miss, who I used to see at nighttime, who I don't see anymore, who I'm sure are not available during the day, but it's okay. It's okay. Fitzmagic was the last time I had hope as a Jets fan. But even then, JT, like how much hope? Hope for what? Hope for a wild card win, a divisional win, maybe. But past that, what were we hopeful for? We weren't hopeful for a Super Bowl. We were hopeful for a fun season and maybe a playoff win or two, but that was about it. Like a fuzz on my nose or something. Yeah. Anything wrong with Corley? Feels like they're treating Corley too much like Elijah Moore. He hasn't been getting a lot of touches, I would say he's getting less touches than I expected early on, but it was always going to be a thing where he's going to be a little bit slower of a bake because he's raw as a route runner, So, especially when you have guys going off like Lazard is playing well, Conklin's playing well, Brees is playing well, Braylon Allen's playing well, all this stuff. Like it's at a certain point, like, why are you going to try to fit him in when a lot of these guys are playing well? So I think it's going to be a thing where he's a slow burn, and as he develops more, they'll use him more. But I would like to see some more design touches for him. But the problem is, like, if he's in the game and he's running a jet motion or an orbit motion, it's like, hey, he's probably getting the ball because they don't play him a lot. And this is the only thing he can really do at this point. So it almost can make you like a little bit one-dimensional. So maybe that's why they're gonna let him, cook on the sideline once he develops more of a route tree and he's a little bit more like or a little bit less one-dimensional, then they'll play him. So it's not so obvious what they're doing. Maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know. But Broncos have a really good defense. This isn't an easy game as people think. They should win, but they better take it serious. Yeah, the Broncos defensive front's pretty solid. And then obviously they have Surtain, but the Jets should be able to win, right? Like, I'm not scared of their offense at all. I think this is another game where you should allow under 14, 13 points, right? I could see them getting a touchdown in garbage time, or maybe even the Jets start slow, give up a touchdown, but I don't think the Broncos are scoring anything more than 16 at max, 13 points probably. And the Jets should be able to score, I think, 3 touchdowns on every team in the NFL. I think the Jets are going to be scoring 20 plus points pretty much every single game. So I'm expecting like a I don't know, like a 24-27 to 10-13. Say 24-13 game from the Jets here, if not even better. No, screw that. They're not scoring a touchdown. 23-9. 23-9. We should win this game. Yeah, we should win this game. I'll be pretty disappointed if I go into MetLife and I see Sean Payton and Bo Nix come in and beat the Jets before the Jets go to play probably a 4-0 Vikings team, and then it may be a 5-0 Bills team or whatever, or just let's just say the division rival Bills on Monday Night Football. You don't want to lose this game. You do not want to lose this game. Yeah, I had to go back to 2010 when I thought we had a real chance. It's hard to even remember at this point. Yeah, and even those teams, like you're talking about, like a 9-win team. Well, the one year we were an 11-win team, right? 11-win team, was that in 2009? And then in 10 we were a 9-win team, or was it opposite? Was it 9? I think it was in 2009. We were 9-7, right? And we got in. Then the one year we were 11-5, right? Or am I wrong? What were the records of 2 years in 2009, 2010? I thought it was 11-5 and 9-7. I just forget which year the 9-7 was. That's the year you snuck in with the Bengals, right? And you played the Bengals. Bengals. Was it Colts after the Bengals, or was it Steelers after the? I forget. Yeah, I'm forgetting. Wow, it's wild. Braylon Allen has been awesome. I think we've really got something here. It's crazy to think Mike and Corley haven't even got going yet. Yeah, and Mike Williams is only going to continue to healthy, and we're already seeing we're already seeing what he offers to this offense, and it's what we said and what everybody said about Mike Williams when he signed. I don't think anybody could really be different here. It's like, hey, Rodgers is an elite contested catch ball thrower, and Mike Williams, in my opinion, is a top 3 contested catch guy in the NFL. And tell me if I'm wrong here, but to me, it's him, T. Higgins, and Mike Evans. I'm trying to think of other receivers I'd put up there, and I never can. I think it's those 3 guys are the best, and I think Mike Williams is probably 2 to T. Higgins. Haven't watched close, but it does seem like they're still running more zone than power. Yeah, I think the numbers last week were something like 56% zone and like 44% power, so they are still more of a zone team. The zone runs have been working. It is something I question a little bit because they have been good on power, but I would say they're running more inside zone and duo than they are running like true outside zone. I think that's a little bit of an adjustment. I have to get a breakdown of that, but it does feel like they're running a little bit more inside and duo versus mid and outside like last year, even though last year I'm not going to say it was majority outside because it wasn't. I don't want to make it seem like that, but a little bit more focused inside, which is more beneficial to guys who could create movement, and they have been. But yeah, it's been a little bit less power than I thought so far. Offense will only get better. Yeah, no doubt. This is the first game Rodgers looked comfortable rolling out. He's only going to get more comfortable. Only more comfortable with Conklin, who again went off. Only going to get more comfortable with Garrett again. He's not only Garrett. Garrett's been a little bit disappointing, but Rodgers has missed him a few times too. That seam route could have been a touchdown, and they weren't on the same page. And if anything, I agree with Garrett. Like, he had room to throw him vertically, or at least put him on him. I don't think he needed to throw it where he had to sit down in that zone. So Davis made a cameo appearance late in the game. Hope he's as good as Allen. Yeah, you can hope. I think he's more consistent in college, but Allen's been he's been running with a lot of force behind him. He's been more decisive, in my opinion, than he was in college, and he's been trucking over full-grown men for sure. Yannick just signed with Baltimore. Yeah. I saw that yesterday. Like, he signed like yesterday, right? Or 2 days ago, Curly Norman. So he's not even an option anymore. But again, look at what's like Yannick Ngakoue stats. I don't think he's done anything in the last couple of years. Oh, okay. 4 sacks last year at the Bears, 9 the year before that. Yeah. I don't think that'd be the worst signing in the world. But again, I'm a Clowney guy. I'm gonna give a 5th round pickup for Clowney type of dude. Conklin looked great though. Yeah. Conklin did look good. A lot of his plays were on the scramble drills. He had the one in route where he threw the rocker step, cleanly beat that the linebacker, and then turned upfield for an extra 10 yards. He had the 2 scramble drills. He looked really good. And it looked, the first couple of weeks made me look a little bit bad because, like, I was saying, hey, I expect Conklin to have a really good and efficient year. And I'm not even saying like 1,000 yards, 900, 800 yards, anything like that, because again, there's a lot of mouths to feed between, Brees and Garrett and and all these other guys. So I don't think Conklin's going to be like the mainstay of the offense where he's getting 1,000 yards or anything like that. But I thought Conklin had like a really efficient, 700 yards, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns. First couple of weeks, he was basically blanked. And then this week, 6 receptions, 5 receptions for 95 yards. So good game. Good game by Conklin. And I do think they'll start to work him over the middle more. He'll start to be the first read against some of these linebackers. If teams are setting pressure and things like that, maybe against the Broncos, he gets isolated against like whoever they have, like Alex Singleton or whatever their linebackers are. So Joe, in all fairness to Garrett, he's been swarmed by double. No doubt about it. So that's why I said Sluggo. He's been swarmed by double teams. With that being said, there's also been some opportunities for Garrett to bring in the ball where he has not, right? Like, so I'm not, there's a gray zone. It's not black or white. I completely understand that he's been bracketed. He's been getting a lot of attention rolled over to his side, undoubtedly. He still could have got his 2 feet in against the Niners. He could have not ran out of bounds against the Niners when Tyrod was in the game. He could have caught that ball on the sideline this game. I think he had a drop the week prior where it hit him in the shoulder. He's been off a little bit with Rodgers, and then again, go watch the review. Like, there were some plays where the play that he took up on the sideline where he didn't get it in, he bows out that route really, really far. So one of the other problems I'm having with Garrett right now at this very moment is his releases. And this is one of the things I worried about him with at Ohio State was his releases. He doesn't close a lot of ground on guys. Like, he does a lot of dancing, but he doesn't eat it up enough ground to make a guy like start to open his hips up either inside or outside to kind of dictate the route more. He does a lot of dancing, and then he bows his route either really far inside or really far outside, and that's why he got squeezed to the sideline so far. So it's not even him just not catching the ball or keeping his feet in bounds, but his routes have been a little bit iffy because of his releases. His releases have not been great in terms of threatening the DB. So he's been really good. Again, top 15. Like, there's not 15 guys that can even better than him this year. Maybe he's 13, 14, 15, maybe somewhere like that. And I'm talking about him like he's a top 5 guy. Like, I think he could be 4th, 5th, 6th, 3rd best this year. I think he has the capability to be a top 5 receiver. So understand that when I'm talking about Garrett, I'm talking about him from a light where I expect him to be an elite receiver. And I think he's been very, very good. He's not been elite. Like, there's a gray zone there. So I'm not saying he's been bad. And he's been double teamed undoubtedly. Has he played like a top 5 guy this year so far? I think you're being a little bit biased if you're saying he has. There's been some mistakes. And again, just overall the route running, he's been bowing his route out, his routes out way too much. His releases got to get a little bit better. What do you think of Solomon Thomas as a fullback over Ruckert? I don't know if he's a fullback over Ruckert in that play, Kev, because there's multiple backs on that. Let me see. Is that the Fashanu block? Yeah, okay. Let's see who else was, because I think there was multiple blockers. Which, by the way, and I know people said like it was fun to watch Solomon Thomas, but people said he lit up the end. Tell me if he lights up 23. And again, so he did his job. He kept 23 to the outside, but I've been seeing the common narrative on Twitter is that he got lit up, or he lit the guy up. Did he light the guy up? He did not. But nonetheless, Ruckert is still at fullback. Ruckert's right there, I believe, unless that's Bates or whatever the guy is we signed from the Bears. But it looks like Ruckert. Yeah, so Ruckert is the fullback. So it's not a thing like either or. They were both moving guys in that play. But for that play, hey, I'm fine with it. Like, get some big get a 300-pounder instead of a 250-pound guy to block somebody. I'm okay with it. But again, it is not like he let anybody up. It's the only thing I will say is he got stood up and thrown to the ground. But he did his job. He did his job, not to be negative. I'm sorry. But that is a common myth at this point. Garrett Wilson has left so much on the field in just 3 games. The preseason game in 2023, him and Rodgers had better chemistry. It's coming. I'm not worried. No. I'm not worried at all with him and Garrett. But you're talking about Garrett is on pace for like 900 yards or whatever it is right now. Like, not exactly what we expected. Once Rodgers starts finding him, once he starts having more trust in Garrett, once Garrett starts earning more trust in Rodgers in terms of running his routes properly and being where Rodgers expects him to be, I expect Garrett to be still a 1,300 yard receiver. But yeah, the first couple of weeks he's been getting 40, 50 yards a game. And part of it is Just look at the one play again. Literally the one play where he could tap his feet in bounds. You're talking about instead of whatever he has. I don't know what it was this game. 3 catches for 45 yards. It could have been 4 catches for 65. Big difference. But he didn't get his feet in bounds. He's got to get better sideline awareness, and his release has got to get better. It just is what it is. I'm just being honest. 10 days because you don't count Monday. Tuesday would be the first full day. Okay. Clemens getting sacks. That was on a stunt too. It was a lot more designed than it was like individual performances. Like I broke down all the 7 sacks, I believe, or most of them, and a lot of it was like, Guy coming off free, Clark coming off free, Kinlaw free on a stunt, Q free on a stunt. There's multiple other stunts as well. See, Clemens had a sack. I think Allen, like Eli Manning and Larry Bird, looks stupid, but they're good. Don't judge a book, I guess. Why does he look stupid? I don't think he looks stupid. Does he look stupid because he's so jacked? Like, why does he? I don't think he looks dumb. I don't know. Will McDonald, yeah, sure, I guess, but I think gun to your head right now to go to. You're saying one game to get me to the Super Bowl. You either have Hassan Reddick or Will McDonald. I think you're lying to yourself if you say Will McDonald. You're gonna take him over Hassan Reddick at this point, right? Like, let's be real here. I know he has 5.5 sacks, but again, 2 of them one was a bad quarterback tripping over him, and another one was a coverage sack, or he was a spy. So no, he's not better than Reddick at this point. Sorry. The way the stadium is designed, it takes forever to get in unless you go an hour or more early. Yeah, that's the problem. Curly, I don't know. I guess I'm assuming you're at the game. Looks like you're at MetLife, or at least in the stadium. I make sure I leave an hour before I have to be in my seat. Sometimes it takes a whole hour to get into the stadium. So, 1 o'clock game, we are packing up at 11:50 and we are walking to the stadium at 12. At the minimum, it takes 30 to 45 minutes to get in at times. And then 10, 15 minutes to get to your seat. So yeah, it takes, that's exactly how long we leave before, an hour. Pack up an hour and 10 before, leave an hour before, and we're good. You're the first one to say that said that you were slightly disappointed with the fan base show out. I can't say shit because I wasn't there, but it didn't sound as loud as last year's opener. It wasn't as loud as last year's opener, I would say. And again, just you guys can see with your own eyes. Go back and watch some of the angles and see that the top rows were, I'm not gonna say empty, but there are quite a few empty seats. I would say, the stadium can fit like 82.5, I think it was. There had to be at least 2,000-3,000 empty, if not like up to 5. But I would say between 2,000 and 5,000 empty seats, which you're talking about again with all the hype in the home opener, you'd expect to be sold out. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't an ass in every single seat. I'll be realistic. It was good. The lights and the music, all that stuff, but people were leaving early, like Curly said, and it wasn't full. So I know we're great on Twitter and we win all these awards for our guys, but it's pretty easy to just vote from your phone. But in terms of actually showing up, I think Jets fans are great on the road because there's a lot of diehard fans who will go to the game, the same 20,000 people who always consistently go. But in terms of packing the stadium, it wasn't full. How is the home opener not sold out? I'm sorry. So yes, I was disappointed. Coverage sack for Clemens. He didn't manufacture it. I'm pretty sure it was a stunt as well, Swolsey. So yeah, you can't just go based on numbers. Again, Will McDonald having 3 sacks last week. Be real about it. One was a trip and one was a spy. So it's not like TJ Watt just beating his guy off the edge. You got to be realistic. I know different circumstances. I just heard a lot of people saying how loud and crazy it was. Yeah, but I would say that a lot of those people haven't probably been to a ton of football games. Realistically, I'm sorry. Or just been a lot of Jets games over the years. Where the Jets games, you don't really see what a good stadium is, but when you travel and you go to a lot of different stadiums, you know what packed stadiums look like. And it wasn't full. It just is. Even if you talk about the loudness of it, which it was loud, people got up on third down. So I thought the people that were there were into it. But I do not think you should have empty seats on the first day or ever with Rodgers. I think every single game should be sold out. I can't see not wanting to go, but here we are. I don't remember Wilson dropping any. I've never left earlier. Yeah, well, blowout wins. I've never had to experience that, so I stayed until the clock hit 0. I don't think he dropped any in this game, Garrett Wilson. The last game, though, up the sideline, it hit him in the shoulder, wasn't able to bring it in. And then this week again, he bowed his route out, couldn't toe tap it on the sideline. So again, he's been really good. He's not been great. I think that's fair to say. Asman was at last year and this year's game, and he said Thursday was a loud atmosphere, but it was louder last year. Yeah, I've had season tickets for almost like 15 years now where I've been going. So at least 5 or 6 games of every season. And last year was undoubtedly louder. And I think last year, I don't think there was an empty seat in the house. This year there were empty seats. Chuck Clark was balling so far. Balling this game, last game, not so much, but this game, yeah, he had a good game. Rodgers owns Minnesota. I think Rodgers, his 2022 year, he lost his first game to Minnesota. Did he win the second game against Minnesota? Packers 2022 schedule. I know he lost the first game because I remember watching it. Unless I'm just wrong. He lost at least one of those games to Minnesota that year. So his last 2 games against Minnesota, he lost the home opener. He lost 23-7. The first game against Minnesota that year. In the next game, he won 41-17. Blew him out. All right. Yeah, give me another 41-17. I'll take that. Jets will be 3-1, then 4-1 heading into the Bills game. So if the Jets do go into that game 4-1 and the stadium's not sold out, I would be very disappointed because that game should be loud if the Jets are 4-1. Hey Joe, what's your history with Badlands? Just curious. No history. Talking about with the Badlands guys. I was with TOJ for a little while, which I'm not going to get into why I'm not there anymore, but there are reasons. But no real history. I knew Darnold would be good this season. Jets have not been good at training QBs. I'm hoping they learn something about it from Rodgers. I don't think Rodgers has any effect on Sam Darnold. It's one, it was a different regime with him. And 2, they didn't give him any talent. Like, again, his last couple of years with the Jets, legitimately look at the numbers. Like, you're talking about Andre Roberts and Chad Hansen and David Nelson and whatever the receivers were, like a bunch of absolute scrubs. Brian Griffin and Tyler Kroft at tight end, like scrub tight ends. A terrible offensive line. Frank Gore as his running back for a lot of carries. Adam Gates is his head coach. Like, the Jets absolutely screwed Darnold. They gave him absolutely no shot. No shot. Everybody had a better shot. Zach Wilson had a decent team at least. Sanchez had a Super Bowl level team. It was terrible. I appreciate that, Sluggo. I do. I want more Allen and Hall sets so they can't target Hall. Yeah. All right. Sluggo on purpose. Okay. Let's see. Keep going down. I meant 2, but 2 set running backs in reference to our running backs. Don't worry about Hack and Rodgers are going to be pass happy versus Denver. It depends. It depends on the good thing about the Jets is they could dictate, right? Like, it's not a thing where you have to run the ball to pass it or you have to pass it to run it. For this team, they could do either. So let the game dictate itself. Like, how are they going to play? Are they going to stack the box? Let them throw it. If they're going to play too high, let's run on them. I don't think their defense is great. I think it's okay. But I'm not saying that it's like a top 5 defense or anything like that. Like, look at their defensive front. We got I'll look at it. Zach Allen, who I don't think is a bad player necessarily, but I don't he's not someone to necessarily write home about. So your defensive line is Zach Allen, DJ Jones, JFM. Then your linebackers are Nick Benito, Cody Barton, Alex Singleton, and Jonathan Cooper. Like, it's, there's some names there. Like, I think, I think Zach Allen and even DJ Jones might be a little bit underrated. JFM is obviously a good run stuffer. I'm not necessarily sure about their linebackers and how well they've been playing, but like, I'm not necessarily terrified of them. Jonathan Cooper, PJ Locke at safety, Brandon Jones at safety, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan at nickelback. Like, yeah, like, okay, there's some players and they might, play soundly, but I'm going to take their Jets with their talent over that team. So, yeah. I read something fun. I'm not going to read that. Are you freaking about Williams? What Williams? Mike Williams? I talked about Mike Williams already. How about that old McDonald fella, Joe? Yeah, it was. He's been good, man. And last week, I think I started to know the difference, or started to notice the difference of him rushing through the guy's chest more. So if he could start turning, and he had a good play in the run game too. No, was it a pass game? He had a stunt with Quinnen Williams where he was the end and he was stunting inside. He was the picker for Quinnen Williams to loop inside, and he took on the tackle with a spin move and then took on the guard and like was able to like power himself through the gap and nearly get the sack on the quarterback. So that was a good play. He had the one. I'm trying to think of his other sack or his one. I can't think of both of the sacks off the top of my head, but yeah, no, he's been rushing through the guy's chest more. So yeah, his spin move's been hitting. The one sack he did, the ghost move where he like threw out his hand, kind of wiped it away a little bit, ducked under the guy's punch, and it got to the quarterback. I'm not sure if that was a hit or a sack though. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but yeah. Good morning, Sunshine. Yeah, I was sleeping before this. I'm trying to fit in some naps. Will you be at the Broncos game? Let's meet up, drink beers. Yeah, I'll be at like I said, I'll be at literally every single game, but the Texans game is the only one I won't be at. So I'll be at every single Jets game this season. Everyone. Again, minus Texans. And then one of Miami or New England. I'm not sure. We need to get another run stuffer. Pass rush will be fine. Need someone better. When we don't face the Pats. Yeah, I'm still concerned about the run defense. I am. They stepped it up this week. They stacked the box and blitzed, which obviously could help in the run game when you're sending guys into every single gap. But what's going to happen when you play, let's say, the Niners again? Like the Niners in the Super Bowl. Are we confident in stopping that run game? Obviously we have a lot of time to go until then, and the defense still has an opportunity to prove itself to us in terms of getting better on run defense. And maybe it is thwarted by the fact that the Jets are going to blitz more, and that can help the run game as well. But yeah, I would like another D end who could stuff the run. Whether that be, hey, the Broncos suck in a couple of weeks and we trade back, we get JFM back for a year or two. You trade for Clowney, something. But yeah, I'm not confident, and I don't like Michael Clemens as a starting D end for the Jets right now. Like Will McDonald, okay, I'll take it. He's developing. Maybe he still gets washed in the run game, but he's a plus pass rusher, so we'll deal with it. But Clemens as a starting D end, I don't think so. Joe makes me feel like he's on my deck. Yes. Yeah. Question: do you think this game means anything extra to Aaron, or do you think he feels matters close? No. Do no? Or do you think he feels matters close since we beat them last year even without him? I lean the former. Yeah, I'm the former here as well. I'm not the latter. Rodgers is a guy who finds motivation, whether that be through people sliding him in social media or whatever it may be. And we know that he was pissed about Sean Payton's comments, and he's not going to take some game from Zach Wilson where we barely beat the Broncos as revenge. Like he wants to smack the shit out of Sean Payton and embarrass him. Like I don't think this is a question really, Daniel Jets. I think that he's undoubtedly has something to prove against them and wants to shit on Sean Payton. Like undoubtedly, he is 100% one of those guys. Peter Yeti says, love smacking the Pats, but I need to see the defense play well against a legit offense to fully believe. Yeah, for sure, dude. 100%. Because the last legit offense they played, they got blown off the field and didn't even look like they were supposed to be there. So I can't criticize you kind of being more reserved in terms of heaping praise on the defense. I'm with you. Show me what you got against Buffalo. Buffalo has been lighting up on offense. Show me what you got against them or even the Vikings next week. But it's a good starting off point, right? Like beat the Broncos up. They don't have a good offense. Beat the Pats up, and then let's see what you got against Sam Darnold playing well. Justin Jefferson, Addison, all those guys. Aaron Jones, solid running back. So, Jersey Jets says maybe the Jags should try to convert Lawrence into wide receiver safety. My thing with Lawrence is one. And again, if you've been following me for years, I said he was overrated when he's coming out. Now, this is not overrated saying he should have been the first overall pick. I said overrated in terms of I don't think he's a generational prospect. Like I don't think he was Andrew Luck or anything like that. So I think he definitely got the generational tag, and he didn't deserve it. I think like almost 50% of his passes at Clemson were behind or at the line of scrimmage. So a lot of his offensive production was produced for him. So there were some questions coming out and people just said he was the next generational guy. I had questions with that. Now I think he would be better than mid. But yeah, no, he's struggling, which is fine to see because I don't, Jaguars fans talked a lot of shit after we won, and we gifted them a generational guy who's going to save their franchise. What's up, Yoshi? What's going on? Going from running back Cook to running back Allen is like going from a hot dog to a ribeye. Good hot, hey, I don't stand for that hot dog criticism there. A good hot dog is a good dirty water dog, or even like a crunchy foot long with some sauerkraut on it. It's like they hit sometimes. Hot dogs. Cook last year never hit, so I kind of I don't know. He's like I don't know. Running back Cook is like pineapple on pizza to me. It just doesn't go, doesn't fit, is never good. I can't wait to never see a bar in Midtown Manhattan with 50% Pats fans. When you saw there's a bar in Midtown Manhattan with 50% Pats fans, that's wild. Yeah. So tired about hearing about 2015 for sure. Agent Zero is a huge upgrade from Dalvin Cook. Yeah, it's if there's only a way we could have known that Dalvin Cook was not going to work, every single indicator showed that he was going to be good with the Jets. I'm just so surprised he was not good with the Jets. Roadsu, new sub, keep up the good work. Appreciate you, Roadsu. We are 60 away. We are 60 away from hitting 10,000, which I greatly appreciate, hitting the 10,000 mark. I'm going to again try to gift memberships here because I would like to. I would like to see some more people become members, but it's still not going to allow me, I don't think. But I'm going to scroll through the chat anyway as this loads. Why does YouTube suck? Or my internet sucks. I don't know what it is, but at least I'm talking to you guys. I'm not choppy, so my internet should be good enough to gift a membership. But here we are. Classic trap game for the Jets. Thing with that is, though, Eric, they just beat the Bucks, so that should put them on the Jets' radar a little bit more. And you have this stuff with Aaron Rodgers versus Sean Payton, so it's not. I can see why you'd think that, but because of what happened last year with Sean Payton's comments, I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. Jets 31, Broncos 9. Yeah, I'm so with that. Give me 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns. Biggest danger I feel are sore losers targeting AR after the play. Yeah, the one they hit by Josh Uche that got called. 2009. Okay, yeah. So I thought or did I say that the opposite? But I know one of them was 9. Beat Cincy, then San Diego. Yeah, Cincy, San Diego, and then lost to the Colts in the AFC Championship game, right? And then they played the Bears that year, if I'm not mistaken. And Colts, then Pats, then lost to Steelers. No, I believe. Yeah, I believe that's it. Brian Nestor. Not a super chat, but becoming a member. Signed up $3. Is it $3 or $3.99, Brian? Whatever one it is. Cup of coffee. It allows you to see the reviews that I put out. So if you were a person who hey, let's not even say that. If you're a person on YouTube right now who's not subscribed to the website, but you're hey, I want to see Joe's full 2-hour reviews of the game. I want to see it really broken down and understand what's going on. With the memberships, you get the banners. You'll get players next to your header. Your name is now highlighted in green. Eventually, you'll be able to get emojis. And then for right now, you can also watch the review, which just got put out. I think it's 2 hours and 20 minutes of me breaking this down. If you're not a member, you get a free 7-minute, 8-minute clip, 10-minute, 15, 20-minute, whatever it is, free clip on Twitter or on YouTube, but you don't get the full thing. So, Brian, I appreciate you becoming a member. I would like to gift some memberships before this is done, but we'll see how YouTube decides to treat me for the rest of this. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Pony Express offense. Yeah, love it. Will romp on Denver. The Jets will romp on Denver. All right. I don't know if I've ever heard romp on. I've heard. Yeah, I don't know. Who's the Colts backup? God, for quarterback, I have no idea. Kelvin Joseph, Jets up. Love the work. Think Max Crosby would be on the market. No, he's not going to be on the market. There's no way. You're talking about literally, he's at minimum a top 4 DN in the league, right? I think the only guys you could say would be above him would be Bosa, Garrett, Parsons. I think those are the only guys in his category. But you could argue him 1. You could argue him 1 through 4. I think that's fine. But you're not going to get a 27-year-old defensive end or 26-year-old defensive end who's a top 4 guy at his position group on a team off that team. Even if they start to rebuild, they're going to want to rebuild around Crosby. I don't think he's a guy you can get. I don't think so. I severely doubt that. If you could, hey, fine. I would love that because Crosby is exactly what you want as a D end, like that like old school classic, like snarling, foaming at the mouth type of D end. Like that's what he is. But you're not getting him away. And at the minimum, it's going to cost 2 or 3 first round draft picks, at least 2. Yeah, it's not going to happen. How did Olu look, Plumpy boy? Any worries about him starting going forward? Sorry if you've already talked about it. Been busy at work. Yeah, no, it's all good. I watched all of his reps. He had like 1.5 bad pass reps. One he allowed like a pressure, where his hand shot from a little bit low, and there's another one where he got bull rushed a little bit. But overall, he played like 15, 20 snaps, whatever it was. I thought he looked pretty good and pass protection. Solo. He looked good on a stunt pass off, and in the run game he looked pretty good. Like he looked like he knew how to get positional leverage and turn guys out of plays. So I was relatively impressed by Olu. So okay, I'm still trying to. I'm gonna give this like 10 seconds on my side with the membership gifting. I'm like, I keep getting the spinny wheel thing, and then I keep clicking off, and it's leading me to believe that it's like not loading because I click off of the actual screen. So maybe if I stare at the screen, it'll work for me. But then, yeah, no, it's just you suck, YouTube. Man, I was waiting for that to happen with Conklin. Oh, you're talking about him going off a little bit, yeah. Conklin looked fast too, which was something I didn't see before. Ball placement is making a world of difference for guys to get yak. Yeah, and just being able to hit them in general, or keep your eyes downfield when scrambling. Like Conklin's a good receiving tight end. I don't get why people are, as I call them, stat humpers. Like everybody loves to F the stats basically. Google this guy. This is this sacks. This is his numbers. He's better than this guy who doesn't have as many numbers as him. You think that people would look at his receiving yards the last couple of years and say, hey, top 10 receiving tight end in the last 2 years, or top 10 in receiving yards from tight ends the last 2 years with absolute trash at quarterback. Maybe he's actually pretty decent. Like we talk about it with Garrett Wilson, like, oh, Garrett Wilson, 1,000 yards. With Rodgers, going to be a 1,500 yard guy because better quarterback. Why does the same logic not apply to a guy who's been a top 10 receiving tight end in the last 2 years in terms of yards? Like, why is he not automatically going to be better as well? I didn't understand it, but yeah, I think Conklin's going to be a guy who gets 600-700 yards, but he's really efficient. I'll take him versus a lot of linebackers on an in or an out route, or just an option route, choice route, whatever it may be, because he's good. He's a good route runner for sure. So, is Conklin crew a thing? Conklin crew, the Conklin cave? Yeah, make it a thing, Dano. I know that I'm on it. I know that Nani's on it. I know when I was streaming with Buffalo Jets fan for a while, I know he's on it. I believe we talked about him with Jake, and Jake's on that crew. So I think Conklin crew is thriving. I think it's a real thing. There's a lot of people who like Conklin, and you should. Do you think that Garrett has adjusted his game to fit Zach, and now it's causing? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a thing where like, hey, he's trying to get open quicker for Garrett. Now he has more time with Rodgers throwing off his timing. No, I don't think so. He's been doing the same thing. There's a video out there of where Ruckert pancakes Karlaftis. Is there? Maybe that's true. Karlaftis is a stud though. Like Karlaftis is a good player. I like Karlaftis in that draft. Sauce is obviously working out. But I love Trent McDuffie too. If you guys have been around since those times, McDuffie was I don't know if he's my corner 2. He might have been my corner 2 above Stingley in that draft. It was Sauce, McDuffie, then Stingley, or if not above Stingley, very close. Like I really like McDuffie, and he's at least like a Pro Bowl level slot corner right now. So, Allen to me looks like a lost kid at times who has no clue what's going on. All right, yeah, I don't get that same vibe that you do, Sluggo, from him, but here we are. Why I give Reddick benefit of the doubt for raw numbers from a year or more ago? Yeah, no, he needs to prove it a little bit too. But with that being said, it's just so messy. What happened? I think the truth somewhere in the middle. I think the Jets expect him to be there. Reddick probably indicated that he should be there, but he took advantage of the Jets getting rid of guys. I don't know. Who cares at this point? But I'm assuming if he does come to play for the Jets, it's not going to be at least until like week 11. And then is it a thing where like, hey, I got a migraine, I can't play? I don't know how that works exactly, but I'm just going to assume he's not going to be on the team the rest of the year, and I'm going to hope they trade for Clowney. Zach, what's your thoughts on Bryce Huff not doing anything through 3 games with the Eagles? One I would like to watch, like, and maybe you know Zach, or maybe somebody knows in the chat. Are they playing him at 9 tech? Like, do they even have that role in the defense, or are they trying to play him at 5 tech? Because if you signed a guy who's typically a 9 tech to play 5 tech, and he's a guy who heavily relies on angles and explosion, then what the hell are you doing? So if the Eagles are playing him out of place and out of position, then that's stupid by them. But also, you see Nani and Rivka with these articles where they're writing, they're based on stats like, hey, when Huff is asked to play more in the run game, his pass rush efficiency goes way down. So now he's playing more with the Eagles in the run game, and his pass rush efficiency has went way down. So the Jets were clearly onto something where they saw it. And, again, Rivka and Nanya were people who were on it as well. Like, when he plays more, he's not as good. So if you're doing that in conjunction with him playing 5 tech versus 9 tech, or just tight 5 versus loose 5, again, however you guys label that, I don't really care. If he's not playing wide, though, then you're completely miscasting him. You're completely misusing him. So he loses a lot of steam, apparently, when he has to play the run game as well. And his game is based on explosion. Makes sense. JD looks like a genius, yeah. Do you think Sherwood is better than Mosley right now? I think it's probably pretty damn close. I do. I still think Mosley, when he comes back, starts, but yeah, I think it's really close. I do. I think Mosley probably gets the rest of the defense into the right position, probably better than Sherwood does. So I would still probably take Mosley for one game over Sherwood. But it's very, very close. Like, individually, though, I think Sherwood might be better. Like, on an individual play, hey, cover this tight end, hey, fill this gap. I think he's probably better at this point. But I think what we can't overlook is the mental aspect of the game and how Mosley gets this defensive line where they're supposed to be. Now, I do think Mosley, when he comes back, he takes that job from Sherwood. And then maybe it's a thing where, hey, he takes a job initially, but now Sherwood is in on third downs or obvious passing situations over Mosley. And then he slowly starts to take Mosley reps. But I do think when he's back, he's going to be a starter. Until the Jets can beat San Fran, they're not a Super Bowl team. Okay, well, the next time they can play them is in the Super Bowl, so they will, in fact, be a Super Bowl team next time they play them, because they can't play them again unless it's in the Super Bowl. So I guess, yeah, true. I guess technically you're right. Yeah, see, I'm with you, Sluggo. It's the same thing. San Fran sucks. They're mid. I don't know about that. They're still a pretty good team. They got injuries. Ayuk hasn't looked great. But Joe, you were right about Trevor Lawrence. He's definitely not generational. That's for sure. That's the only thing I said. I'm not going to say, I am not going to act like I was sitting there. One, I didn't even study him because the Jets couldn't draft him. So I watched him in passing. So I'm not going to even take credit. Like, I actually legit sat down and studied him. But I looked at him like a lot. Like, I watched at least 2 or 3 games of him. Like, film wise, I'm like, a lot of his stuff is generated by scheme, not by him. So I had questions for sure. Broncos won't score week 4. Look at a field goal. I am with you, though. 31-0. I'll take it. Brees should hit a home run this week. Yeah, against the Broncos. He's known for that. Just pray to God for Brees and ABT this week. Pineapple pizza on sourdough bread is way better than a hot dog. That's processed meat. Oh yeah, I'm not acting like it's not, like, pig dicks and snouts and whatever else, like, mixed up into a blended and put in a casing. Like, I understand what a hot dog is, but it still tastes better than a pineapple on pizza. Like, I'm taking a hot dog with relish, spicy mustard, and sauerkraut over a pineapple pizza all day, every day. Joe Flacco, the Colts backup. There you go. I know Verge Tip says, I know fans love killing Salah, but the delay of games seem pretty clearly on A-Rod. The delay of games are on him, unless it's a thing where Hackett's getting to play in too late. But I doubt that. I think it is more on A-Rod. Salah's not terrible. He has his limitations. Yeah, he's like mid. He's a mid-level coach to me. I think he has his limitations in terms of clock management. Team coming out flat sometimes. Like, there's been questions about him, but he also has elite talent development. That's something that you cannot deny. You cannot deny that. Plumpy Boy says, I saw him drop back into coverage week 1. I don't know. Who are you talking about? I'm not sure who you're talking about, Plumpy. Scott also says the 49ers can beat the Vikings and the Rams. They are not a Super Bowl team. Yeah, they're not a Super Bowl team. We're not a Super Bowl team. Like everybody, dude, everybody. The Bengals just lost to the Commanders, and the Bengals were a bullshit pass interference call away from beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs. The Ravens are 1-2, and they were a half a toe. Actually probably more than Kevin Durant, but a Kevin Durant's toe away from beating the Chiefs on week 1. And who the Chiefs beat week 2? Was it the Bengals? Bengals week 2. Ravens week 1, and then who they play this week? Who they play? I forgot who they played. Plumpy says pineapple on pizza is lunacy, Kev. Yeah, it is. The only thing I've added, and it's actually weird, but this one wasn't weird. I had a place near me that does capicola on pizza with hot honey, which was delicious. And then I tried one that was Caesar salad on pizza, which was actually delicious. But pineapple, no, it's not. That's not for me. It's not for me. Oh, Huff dropped back into coverage. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I can't say that I've been watching the Eagles like so closely where I know pineapple pizza is great when one's baked. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a little bit. I'm a well diverse like person in terms of food. Like I'll eat oysters and sushi and I tried blood sauce or no blood pudding. I've tried and like I'll try a bunch of different shit, but like I tried pineapple on pizza. It's not the best. Fired eggs and pizza is the bomb. Fried eggs in pizza. Never tried it, but that sounds actually quite delicious. I'm gonna pull up the Broncos roster really quickly and go over it. Let the chat fill up a little bit. I got a hard jump off time of about 1:40 today, so I got about 10 minutes left. Let me share the screen for our lads depth chart for this game. All right, yeah, looking at their team again. This is stuff where like I would love to lean on like a Nania here because Nania I know will like do the stats and the articles and kind of know what these guys all are, but their receiver core, again, this is a game where looking at what they have at receiver, this should be a game where you're pressing up your corners like you did last week, getting in a lot of man coverage and maybe not blitzing 37% of the time, but at least 25 to 30% of the time, like blitz Bo Nix, make him question what he's seeing, let him take some licks from Quincy Williams, sweet, because Cortland Sutton, I think he's a good number 2. Miscast is a number 1. If even that at this point, I don't know how he's been doing this season, but he's been slowing down a little bit. Josh Reynolds, Jordan Humphrey, Marvin Mims. Like I'm not afraid of this receiver core at all. Garrett Bowles is a decent tackle. Ben Powers, I think is okay. I have no idea about Luke Woodenberg. If he is anything worth writing home about, I don't believe so. Quinn Miners, I don't think has been great since coming into the NFL. I could be wrong there. And then Alex Palczewski, I would say. No idea either. Haven't heard about him. So you're looking at an offensive line that is probably not very good. Assuming that their center through right tackle are probably all below average. I could be wrong on Quinn Miners though, to be completely transparent. And look at their defense. And even their Bo Nix is hurt, right? So, how hurt is he? Because is it a possibility that Jarrett Stidham plays? I don't know. But then their running backs, okay, McLaughlin, Javonte Williams, not necessarily terrified of them. McLaughlin is a shifty guy, but still, and Javonte is coming off of major injuries and has been averaging 2.2 yards per carry this year. All right, and then their defensive front, it's got some names. Like I think Zach Allen is actually a decent player. DJ Jones, I think, is actually a decent player. Or a solid player that I think we actually talked about wanting 2 years ago. I'm not sure how he performed with them, but okay, Zach Allen, decent. DJ Jones, decent. JFM, decent. And I think third linebackers might even be decent. Like I recognize who Cody Barton is, Alex Singleton, Nick Benito. Like I think they're all decent players, but it's looking like a very like average type of group in terms of the talent. Now maybe they're coached to play better than they actually are, but corners, Jonathan Cooper, okay. Jaquan McMillan, all right. Pat Surtain's obviously a stud, but their secondary is not great either. I'm not terrified of Brandon Jones or Riley Moss or, PJ Locke. So I think it's a game that the Jets should win. I don't think they have a ton of talent on offense. I'm not scared of their run game. I'm not scared of their quarterback. I'm not scared of their receivers. Greg Dulcich at tight end, like their offense is bad. And I think the numbers would indicate that in terms of their offensive line. I don't think they're very good right now. I could be wrong on that one. And then I think their defense is kind of mid. So bad offense. I think a mid talented defense that may play a little bit better than they are because of scheme. Again, that's something I'm transparently pretty unaware of, like how good their defense has been playing. I know they played a decent game against the Bucks. They mostly shut them down. They had a good game against the Steelers, who offense isn't great. And then in week 1, who did the Broncos play in week 1? Seahawks, right? Broncos schedule. I think they played the Seahawks week 1. They lost at like 24-20 or something like that, like a pretty close game with the Seahawks, I believe. Okay, yeah, 26-20 to the Seahawks. They lost 13-6 to the Steelers, and 26-7 Bucks. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, I don't think it's a stack team by anybody in any means. 24-9 will be my final guess for the score. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. On pizza, sorry for the shitty texting. It's okay, Scott. KC played Atlanta week 3. Okay, yeah, week 3. Yeah, and Atlanta almost won, right? I don't think I saw the end of that game either, but they almost won that game, Atlanta. That was the Sunday. Was that the Sunday night game? Was it Sunday night? Thursday night? I forget. Man, my days are all mixed up. You should check it. You should check out what they do with pizza in Brazil. It's insanity. Yeah, I don't want to know. Maybe there's a reason I don't know, because it sucks. I'm not eating pizza anywhere else. It just like in Italy, it's nice, but like pizza in Italy is almost more like flatbread. It's not really like pizza like you think it is here. It's more flatbready. House of Red Wine says Rodgers explained the clock thing in Green Bay. He said it's a strategic move that forces the defense to declare if they're going to blitz or not, but the catch is delay of game penalties. Yeah, no, it's you at a certain point you're going to have to rotate. You're going to have to show your blitzers, all that stuff, but it can hurt the offensive line in terms of, again, the defense knowing exactly where to snap the ball. It's not great. Drove us Packers fans crazy. Yeah, I saw Packers fans like the other day, like, oh, like this is what Rodgers does. It's like, okay, like, hey, if I'm going to get 27 for 34, 280 yards, 2-3 touchdowns a game, no picks, but he's getting a delay of game or two, then okay, like I'll take it. I'll take it. Denver defense was impressive Sunday. Yeah, I can't say I watched like enough to like say, okay, this is why exactly, but I think the Jets should allow no more than 13 points to this team. It max 16, and I think the Jets can put up 3 touchdowns on anybody. I do. So I'm betting Rodgers kills Denver with 1,000 cuts. Run the ball. We'll see. Cincinnati and Atlanta both should have beaten KC. I mean, yeah, dude. And even last year, like the Jets, and this is not being biased at all, because who cares at this point if the Jets should have won that game or not? But the Jets beat the Chiefs last year. Like that call where they called a bullshit penalty on Sauce and Michael Carter picked it. He picks it off. He takes 2 or 3 steps, and the ref's like, oh shit, he picked it. Flag. Like, got to throw it now because he picked the ball. So yeah, that was bullshit. Jermaine Johnson was getting basically assaulted. Like he could have filed for a restraining order, and he probably would have got it based on evidence that this guy was harassing him. And yeah, no flag there. The Bengals game, no flag. The Atlanta game, I saw that there was a questionable call at the end of the game. Transparently, I didn't watch the very end of it. But yeah, dude, KC gets away with a lot of shit. And Mahomes, he looked good in the playoffs last year. You look at his numbers, but like 22 touchdowns, like 7 picks, whatever it was, maybe even a little bit higher touchdowns, but didn't look great last year. And this year so far, you watch him and he's been good. He's not been elite Patrick Mahomes this year. And last year, the last 2 years, he's been a little bit off. So, it's from Stack. Joe, Atlanta choked in the end once again the refs helped KC. Yeah, I saw there was like some pass interference call or whatever it was that was questionable again, but the refs' chief bias is brutal. Joe, I'm not going to ask exact town, but what county do you patrol? I'm in Monmouth County. From Mike D. What's up, the Chicken Jenkins? Good win. Let's beat Sean Payton's clown ass into the ground. Yeah, I'll be there. Needs to be a nice, relaxing game, just like the Pats game was. Give me a touchdown or two quick. 14-0, 13-0 quickly. And again, I do think this is a game the Jets should win comfortably. There's a reason they're favored by a touchdown, which is the most in I don't know how long. Mako Shida says Bucks offense was terrible, especially Baker. Okay, I'll take your word for it and say he was just terrible. Missed a lot of open receivers, which hopefully Rodgers doesn't do. How many times from Sluggo have you seen a ref call pass interference way after an interception? KC versus Jets. Yeah, like that one, not often, if at all. Really. That was brutal. And again, it was, I think it was, hold on really quickly. Like if they called it right off the jump, then okay, like I get it. To me, a very ticky-tacky pass interference call, but the fact that the ref watched it happen, watched the pick happen, and then threw it, which is what pisses me off. If it's a penalty, then throw it immediately. Like, why are you going to wait until after you see a pick to throw the flag? So I think there is a heavy bias towards the Chief, and it's quite evident. Slugger says he's 66 and played, coached, watched football, and never seen what happened before in KC versus Jets game. And it happens much more often than it should. I think the Jets game was one of the better examples of like, hey, the Chiefs are getting really benefited here, but it happens every week. Whether it be Juwan Taylor, starting early pretty consistently, or holding calls are getting away with, or, defensive pass interferences they get away with. It is crazy. It is crazy with the Chiefs. It's a brutal watch. Let's see. Scott says Jets have a superior run game to Tampa Bay that Denver will have to deal with. Yeah, they have Rashad White and whoever their backup is. We got Brees and Braylon Allen. You have Aaron Rodgers versus Baker Mayfield. I'm taking Rodgers. I'm taking our offensive line versus their offensive line. Our defense is obviously pretty damn good. Again, this is not a game that if you're trying to be, if you're trying to be a team who's sneaking into the wild card, okay, lose this game. Like, fine, let's just be, barely what we want to be, and let's just scrape into the playoffs. But if it's a thing where you want to be one of the powerhouses of the AFC and really, really show out and win the division, and maybe even be a 1 seed and have home field throughout the entire playoffs, which would be massive because Jets fans would be absolutely wild. When you win this game, you do not lose this game. Can you imagine a home Jets, just one, even a wild card game, but then divisional or AFC championship game at home for the Jets? Oh, my God. That game, Sherwood got tripped too. No, he wasn't tripped. He was not tripped, my friend. He was alligator rolled. No skills. I'll bring that up right now. He was alligator rolled. He was not tripped. Donovan Smith grabbed his ankle and spun him down like he was trying to break his leg. Here you go. It's a good thing about it. So initially gets held. He's held here. Clearly ripped to the ground or ripped down. He tries to get out of it, and then look at Donovan Smith on his leg. He has it right here, and he's twisting it. Twisting his legs. Oh, no hold though. No hold. Big run for the Chiefs. Yep. Good call out though. That was another part of that game. And then you had the penalty. And then you had the Jermaine Johnson no call, like brutal. Blake C, excited to see Olu play. I remember being annoyed watching him play right tackle in preseason, wanting them to stick to one side, but now, yeah, exactly. Like, I'd much rather now the only concern is like, hey, do you sign Bakhtiari for now? Because and people are so stupid on Twitter. It's like, hey, should the Jets call Bakhtiari? People are like, we have Fashanu. Yeah, no shit, we have Fashanu to start at right tackle. But are you guys confident in Carter Warren or Max Mitchell being backups for Tyron Smith, who gets injured quite often? I'm not. Sunday Night Football, Falcons Chiefs game. It was a clear pass interference on Chiefs corner. So what was the Thursday night game this week? I forget, man. I'm an idiot. I just so much shit going out of my brain. I do got to go though. Got to jump off. Got to go take care of a little kid. I appreciate you guys. Go to Twitter, JoeRB31. Subscribe there. Again, less than 500 away from 10,000 and less than 60 away here from 10,000. Subscribe, like it, share it, subscribe to the website, all that. I appreciate you guys, and I will